Hi everyone, welcome to 2011 Studies. We're taking a little break from the I Am Factor series. I want to introduce something that I've been looking at. I'm very interested in this one verse in the Bible that talks about a season and a time and how that could possibly relate to the year 2031 or 2026 also, because both of those are the end years of the 1335 days periods of time that Daniel 12 speaks about. Blessed is he who waits and comes through the days of 1335. So this is the case for the year 2031, a season and a time. I want to say on the onset too that if you have any information about 2026 being more of a possibility, please feel free to put it in the comments. That's always a good thing to do because I want to look at both years. And when we do this, chances are we're going to find something that eliminates one possibility or the other. So I want to do that for that reason. The case for the year 2031, a season and a time. I want to present the possibility for 2027 to 2031 with the year 2031 being the last year. This focus will start with the flood in 4990 BC. In both books, Countdown to the Last Day and 7 Years to a Better Tomorrow, I reviewed the timing of the flood in the year 4990 BC. This was based on the 17th day of the second month, which translated to our May 21, 4990 BC. Did I say that right? May 21, 4990 BC. Genesis 7:11.
Genesis 7:11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened.
Since May 21, 2011 was the 7th anniversary of the flood, that seemed to be very significant as we compared the following verse. 2 Peter 3:7.
2 Peter 3:7. But the heavens and the earth, which are now, by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. 8. But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day.
That one thing became very significant since the year 2011 was in fact the 7,000 year anniversary since the flood in 4990 BC. 4990 BC plus 2011 equals 7,001 years, and then you minus the 1 year because there is no year zero. This is a statement from sciencing.com calculating years across BC and AD. So I'm going to have the voiceover read this.
Calculating years across BC and AD. If you have a math problem that requires you to calculate years across BC and AD, it's crucial to adjust for the fact that there was no year zero. For example, if you need to work out how many years are between January 1st, 200 BC to January 1st, AD 700, you add the BC and AD numbers. The calculation is 700 plus 200, which equals 900 years. However, you still have to adjust for the absence of year zero. You do this by removing 1 from your answer, so 900 minus 1 is 899, sciencing.com.
So most everybody was in agreement concerning 2011 being the 7,000 years since the flood in 4990 BC. Compared with 2 Peter 3:7 and 8 it really seemed to be highlighting how God views time as one day as 1,000 years and 1,000 years as one day. So when we came to 2011, that was 7,000 years since the flood. The year 2011 seemed very important, being basically 7 days in God's sight, so much so that when we passed May 21, 2011 date, I started 2011 Studies channel here to see what else 2 Peter was teaching. It was closer to 2012, I think, but It was about that time that I started this channel. This is 2 Peter 3:9.
2 Peter 3:9, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is longsuffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance.
As we focused on the Lord not being slack concerning his promise, his long-suffering to us was for our benefit. He was not willing that we should perish. So that leaves the possibility of an extension of time past the 7,000 year since the flood of 2011. But how long? That was the big question. How long would we have until Christ comes on the last day? Writing both books was a time of much biblical study. I began searching for what appeared to be the final days of this present world, namely the 1335 days of Daniel 12. Daniel, as well as other believers, would stand in their lot or inheritance God has planned for the believers. So there is no doubt that the 1335 days is an important marker for the coming of Christ on the last day. The book 7 Years to a Better Tomorrow focused on the possibility of 2018. However, Trumpets 2014 to Pentecost 2018 was only 1334 days. Should I release the book or not? I decided to. It was after that, when I kept studying, that not only are there various patterns from Trumpets to Pentecost, but there is a precise 1335 days in some groups of 3.5 years. Okay. Now we can narrow it down to years that are precisely 1335 days, from trumpets in 1 year to Pentecost in the last year. No more guessing. But I will have to say, writing Countdown to the Last Day, and especially 7 Years to a Better Tomorrow, was significant for me because it set the pattern of, okay, what's next? Okay, what do we have to look at next? And that was an important aspect of coming to the conclusion of the 1335 days now that we know are in certain groups of years. And the groups of years we're focusing on now is 2022 to 2026. That's 1335 days, trumpets to Pentecost. And also 2027 to 2031, also 1335 days from trumpets to Pentecost. I sat down and detailed the years that were precisely 1335 days. Here is a section of years from the new book that I'm still working on.
September 26, 2022, trumpets, to May 22, 2026, Pentecost, equals 1,335 days. September 16, 2023, trumpets, to June 11, 2027, Pentecost, equals 1,365 days. October 3, 2024, trumpets, to May 31, 2028, Pentecost, equals 1,337 days. September 23, 2025, trumpets, to May 20, 2029, Pentecost, equals 1,336 days. September 12, 2026, trumpets, to June 7, 2030, Pentecost, equals 1,365 days. October 2, 2027, trumpets, to May 28, 2031, Pentecost, equals 1,335 days.
As you can see, the ones that stand out being precisely 1335 days are Trumpets 2022 to Pentecost 2026 and Trumpets 2027 to Pentecost 2031. Since Daniel 12 speaks of blessed or happy is he that waits and comes to the days of 1335, we should see some happiness. Blessed or happy, whatever you want to decide. That's what that word means. Are we seeing this right now during the years 2022 to 2026? Wouldn't there be like 1 million views on this channel if people would share it more would hear this announcement of the coming of Christ. This to me, I don't think there's anything more important as far as what we're studying than the 1335 days. I've said that before. But man, we're talking about a final climatic ending of this present world. Christ comes and he recreates a new heaven and a new earth, and the bodies are resurrected. The believers are resurrected with their new bodies. So this is extremely important. And every time I focus on this topic, other topics are important too. Like the I am factor is very important to establish who Christ said he was or is. And this, though, really affects the flood. There's no other topic besides maybe the timing of the flood. Now, what I want to do with this is this. I want to look at the years, the years are the amount of days from creation until 2026. From creation to 2026 tabernacles, and the flood to 2026 tabernacles. I also want to do it from creation to 2031, and then the flood to tabernacles of 2031. That way we can have, both figures as far as the amount of years and days, and we can see if there's any significant numbers as factors within those days. Now, today's study is going to show some of this, and it's important. I know it's important, but it's a matter of hashing it out and praying for God to give wisdom on this. Okay, so the flood in 4990 BC to the last day of tabernacles in 2031. That's the focus of this study. Okay, May 21, 2011, the anniversary of the flood, to October 9th, 2031, the 8th day of tabernacles, the reading of the Torah. That's pretty much considered the last day of tabernacles. It is 7,447 days. So you had, in 2011, you had the 7,000 year anniversary of the flood. And if 2031 is the year, then we have not only the 7,000 years in 2011, but an additional 7,000 days plus 447 days. So you have both of them. You have 7,000 showing up both times, and an additional section of the 447 days. Okay, so that's what we're looking at.
2 Peter 3:8. But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day.
What about the 447 days as a trail and number? Are there any verses that show a period of 447 days? There possibly is, and that's what we're looking at. I say possibly, because every time you study something, you say, oh, okay, I didn't see that before, but this looks like a really good possibility. Some verses in the Bible seem to be a point-blank verse where not much elaboration is given on the verse. It just says it, and then you're left with, well, I wonder where that would fit in. And this is the type of verse. Below in Daniel 7, there is such a verse. Daniel beholds until the thrones were cast down. One with a garment white as snow and hair like wool sat on the throne. The comparison verse is found in the book of Revelation. This is Revelation 1.
Revelation 1:13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire.
It is in Revelation 1 where Jesus states, I am the first and last. So we know who this is speaking of in both Daniel 7 and in Revelation 1. It is Christ himself. So let's review Daniel 7. Number 1, Daniel be held until the thrones were cast down. This is Hebrew 3764, Korsei, a throne, corresponding to Hebrew 3678, a throne. Number 2, the context was after the war on the saints, once the judgment sits. 3, the timeline of the war on the saints is a time, times, and the dividing of time. Only once is Hebrew 6387, Peleg, used, but the root of H6386 does in fact mean dividing. So I think that time, times, and a half is an accurate translation. It would be time, a year, times 2 years, and a half a year. So it'd be 3.5 years. What did I say last? Hebrews 6386 does in fact mean dividing. Hebrews 6387, it shows the half dividing. Hebrews 6387 used once, but Hebrew 6386 seen in Daniel 2 with the kingdom being half clay and half iron. So that's the dividing there. I'm just trying to show these illustrations of how that the times and a half would apply to a dividing of a year. Hebrews 6386 is divided. That's what it means. Hebrews 6385 is also similar, as in Genesis 10:25, in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. So 3.5 years seems to be correct. This is Daniel 7:11 and 12.
Daniel 7:11, I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame. 12. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time.
My focus this past week is what makes up a season and a time. If the word time is a year, then it is a year and a season. So that's what makes up the 447. One verse that helps this context is Daniel 7:25.
Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. 26. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end.
Perhaps the consume and destroy of the kingdom of Satan is for a year and a season, a time and a season, which could be is it 477 or 447? I might have wrote that down wrong. Yeah, it's 447. I did write that down wrong. Man, if I do make mistakes on some of this stuff, put it in the comments, because sometimes I don't rewatch the study. I upload it. Let's start over here. So the kingdom of Satan for a year and a season, the consume and destroy of the kingdom of Satan is for a year and a season, which could be 447 days. That's 365 days, a time, plus 82 days, a season. There's 4 seasons in a year, so that would fit. I think 90 days is actually considered a season. But then again, you would have, maybe it goes up to the first day of Tabernacles, and then you'd have the 8 days of Tabernacles, which would make 90. But anyway, it fits, the breakdown of that fits the 447 days. A good reason that he seeks to change the times and laws is to avoid this judgment period of a season and time. Okay, I sort of went through that really quick. I thought this was going to be longer. It will be once the verses are read. So I think this is important to look at, because when you have, to me, when you have 7,000 years in 2011 from the flood, and then you have 7,000 days, and then you have 447 days as a trail-in number of the 7,000 days. It seems like it'd be important to try to figure out why the 447 is there. I mean, what's the purpose of it? And I think this whole thing about consuming and destroying is very important. Now, this doesn't change any of the other figures at all. I mean, from Pentecost to the last day of Tabernacles, that's still intact in every group of 1335 days. What this does do is give like an explanation of why a season and a time would be, left as far as a period of judgment on the kingdom of Satan. The rest of the beasts, their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. Interesting, to say the least. So we know the gospel goes out into all the world, and then the end comes. The bringing of the gospel, the sending forth of the gospel, one final push to get it out into all the world, could be the consume and destroy aspect of the kingdom of Satan. And what we see right now, where people are just judging people left and right, as the accuser of the brethren does that. At that point, I think that'll be a thing of the past, because the focus then, during this season and a time, a year and say 82 days, would go being for the sole fact of getting the gospel out into all the world. And a lot of people will become saved at that point. What does it say? And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached into all the world as a witness unto the nations, and then the end will come. So that's another aspect of this right before the end, that perhaps that season and a time where this happens and the consume and destroy of the kingdom of Satan happens. So that's it for now. These take longer. I'm sorry for the upload being a couple days late, but these number topic studies take longer. I'll get back into the I Am Factor series after looking at another group of years, and just put these in between the I Am Factor series as we go along. My name is Marty Catuzzo. The email is 2011studies@gmail.com. If you want to comment, please do. I'm looking for people to comment, because I notice same with music, when you get a group of people together and you play music, it sparks creativity to the point where you go in a different direction than if you were just by yourself trying to write a song. Iron sharpens iron. It's the type of thing where it aids in the creation process. This has been my experience. And the same with studies. Some people might have something, what about this? And they'll present something in an email or comments below. And it really does help. So if you have something that you think the reason it's 2026 being the correct 1335 days, post it down in the comments. If you think 2031 is more of a possibility, because we're not seeing that blessed is he who waits, we're not seeing that happiness part of that. So it's like, okay, we have a little bit longer to wait. But either way, it doesn't hurt anything to look at this. It's a good thing. So that's it for now. Until next time, God bless you, and thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you share this, thank you.